about that time.
Stoned on Sports.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. My name is Matt. Got the co-host Kyle here with me today.
What up?
We are halfway through the fantasy regular season. Going into week 8, we got the second half of the year, and guess what? If you're 6-1, you're sitting good. If you're 1-6, you still got a shot at the playoffs, provided you don't shit the bed the rest of the way. And that's what we're here to help you with. Kyle, how you doing, brother?
Doing great. Excited for another week of football. Thursday night, Vikings at Rams on the road. Rams got some players back, which is nice. So maybe it's a decent game. Honestly, I feel like Stafford's going to be running for his life most of the time with what Brian Flores is going to throw at him, but we'll see what happens. But starts and sits. So this is our normal Thursday show. We got 10 players for you, 5 to start, and 5 that you should think about not starting. First one, running back. Javonte Williams has put together a season best effort last week in New Orleans, and now he gets to attack another weak sauce NFC South front, this time at home versus the Panthers, who just happen to allow the most fantasy points to running backs this year. Feels like a matchup made in heaven, doesn't it, Matt?
It sure does. And not only do they allow the most points to running backs, they allow the most points per game and the most red zone points per game. And they've also allowed 13 rushing touchdowns, most in the NFL. That's 1.9 a game. And I understand you can't score 0.9. We'll just call it 2 a game. Holy shit. Like, come on. That's really bad. And Javonte, his best game of the year, 14 carries for 88 yards, scored a couple touchdowns, called all 3 of his targets for 23 yards. He finished tied with Breece Hall as the running back 5 on the week. And that was his 4th game over 10 points. On the season, he's a running back 26 in total points, RB 31 in points per game. Look, I'm not expecting a repeat of last week's performance, especially in terms of the 2 touchdowns, but I do think just based on how I expect the game script to go in this game, with Andy Dalton not starting and Bryce Young being in there leading a woefully inept offense, at least the way he did earlier in the season, the Broncos really should have no problem winning this game. Now, rookie quarterback Bo Nix does run the ball quite a bit himself and will steal some carries. You saw it, hey, look, Javonte only had 14 last week. Jaleel McLaughlin gets involved there in the backfield as well. But still, in terms of actual carry percentage, Javonte is going to lead the way. I think, look, that Cardinals defense is so damn bad that if you give him that same workload, 14 carries, 3 targets, we'll call it 17, 18 opportunities, I think he is going to go up over 100 total yards again, and he may do just that on the ground. That Broncos defense, look, the Panthers offense is going to be no match for that defense. I think the Broncos win this one quite easily, and I think you're going to see quite a bit of Javonte out there on the field, especially in the second half, salting this game away. Once teams get any kind of a lead, a touchdown, 10 points, once you get up to 14 points, especially in the second half, they're going to sit on the ball, period. Yeah. And Javonte is going to be the beneficiary of that.
Yeah, Denver's defense is no doubt. They allow an average of 4.4 yards per play through the first 7 games of the season, best in the NFL. So they're going to have a tough time there. Let's see. What do we got? Somebody's got a question. Dynasty is my life. Welcome back, man. 12 team. You get the tight end. Man, we really do need to get our home league changed to that for a tight end premium. For we sorely need that in our league. But 7-0. Nice. Is he crazy for wanting to start Hopkins over Ladd or Andrews? I don't necessarily think so. I mean, guy's been in the league forever. Yeah, he might, similar to what Amari Cooper played 19 snaps last week for Buffalo. You might see something like that, but he scored a touchdown and caught a few balls. I don't hate it. What do you think?
I would probably go Ladd over Hopkins. Look, DeAndre Hopkins, I get he's got a lot of name appeal. He's got a reputation. The dude is likely going to be a Hall of Fame receiver, some of the best hands we've ever seen. But he's also dealing with a ligament tear in his knee. He's like 32 years old. And do you want to take a guess how many yards after catch he has this season? 1.
That's close.
He has 1 yard after the catch. So I think his role on this team, I understand Andy Reid come out today and said, hey, we're going to utilize him in the Rashee Rice, Juju Smith-Schuster role. Cool. Awesome. That's great. He's going to catch the ball and fall down. I think maybe this week I don't want to say it's going to be his best week on the team because he's just now getting there. New offense, new playbook, new terminology. All of that takes time. At the same time, I think long-term, his role is going to be third down and red zone.
Yeah.
Just because he's not going to do anything once he gets the ball in his hands.
And you got to take into some consideration, at least the psychological thing. He's on a winner now. He's on a team that is expected to play into February this year. And, that can really do something for your psyche. And you might see a little career rejuvenation here. I don't think he's going to go crazy or anything, but it's a nice trade. They had to get somebody and they went out. I would have preferred they went and got like Diontae Johnson or something, but
I'm sure they would have preferred that too.
Yeah.
But,
you can get
cost
you can
is
get.
a factor.
Right.
So Javonte Williams, pretty good play. But we start at more than one position. How about a wide receiver? A lot of times it can feel like rolling the dice when you're talking about Packers receivers as to, who's going to get the love in any given week. And this week, Kyle, you're thinking it's going to be Romeo getting the love.
Yeah. I mean, he's been feeling the love, right? I mean, he has an appropriate first name too, Romeo. I mean, him, it really is a crapshoot some weeks on, which receiver is going to be, next in line behind Jaden Reed. This week and going forward, I really think it's Romeo Doubs. He had that, little dissatisfaction with his role there, skipped a practice, got suspended a week, but he seems to put that behind him. His season's back on track. Week 7 versus Houston, he hauled in 8 of 10 targets for 94 yards. That's his second consecutive game now with at least 17 plus fantasy points. And he's a wide receiver 7 in the last couple weeks, but wide receiver 38 on the season. And, Love threw 3 touchdowns. Doubs, unfortunately, didn't catch any of those, but, he led the team in targets, receptions, and receiving yards. His chemistry with Love's been pretty evident over the past couple weeks. There's little reason to believe that, that'll change or the momentum will slow down, so to speak. And when Romeo's Love's favorite on the week, he's capable of producing wide receiver 2 numbers for you. He'll still compete for targets with Reed and Christian Watson and Wicks and stuff, and even Tucker Kraft too, who's done well in the last 4 weeks, I should say. But Dobbs' big play ability gives him the potential to produce even in weeks where he gets lower targets. And I kind of like that with him. I think he's a priority start this week. Looks to continue in a week 8 matchup against Jacksonville, a secondary that is not among the most talented in the AFC, let alone the entire league. So Jacksonville allows the 4th most points to wide receivers, including 9 receiving touchdowns, 1,240 yards. Both of those are 3rd most in the NFL.
I can dig it, man. And look, the best way to score is to get targeted in the red zone and in the end zone. And it seems like Love looks his way constantly in that part of the field.
Yep.
So we got a couple questions here in the chat. We got Pareko. If I'm butchering that, I apologize. Trade Mahomes plus Brees or Kyron for Jaden Daniels, Tony Pollard, and Malik Neighbors. It's a redraft. Super flex. His wide receiver 1 now is Justin Jefferson. Other QBs are Anthony Richardson and Jameis Winston, and he's 2 and 5. Can't decide which running back to trade.
I know Mahomes is having a down year, but out of those 3, I'd still rather keep Mahomes. You? I mean,
I
you know,
mean,
somebody like AR, you know, we talk about rushing quarterbacks or what Matt has said, cheat codes, but you know, this year he just hasn't been that good and hasn't played all the games. And I don't like it. And Jameis, you know what you're going to get with him. You know, he's got, you know, big passing yard ability, but, you know, he's going to turn over the fucking ball.
he is. And look, Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback 22, averaging 15 points per game. You're going to have to give something to get something. I would rather have Brees over Kyron rest of season. I think they're both top 5 running backs. I like Brees a little bit better. Getting Jaden Daniels, who has just set the league on fire. Tony Pollard is fine. And Malik Neighbors has been fantastic. You look at AR and Jameis. Yeah, Jameis is going to start this week, but I got to imagine that DTR is going to be in at some point. And look, he's completing like 45% of his passes for his career. That's Anthony Richardson territory. Give me Daniels and Anthony Richardson, or I'm sorry, give me the Daniels, Pollard, and Neighbors side of that. I'd trade Mahomes and Kyron for it, and I would sleep like a baby.
You trade Mahomes plus Brees. Oh, never mind. I see the or. I can read now.
Yes, I'd trade Mahomes and Kyron if given the chance.
All right.
Or given the choice, excuse me.
Who do we got next? Bisco?
Yes.
Thoughts on Evans? Rest of season was drafting up to trade to snatch him up for the playoffs. I mean, he's a great receiver. You know,
He
you
is.
just hope that he heals quickly and he's more on the, 4-week side than the 6-week side.
Yeah, and that's going to be an interesting situation when he comes back there. I think he's just through sheer necessity going to get fed. Look, he takes
1,000 yards again.
right. Well, he takes the next 4 weeks off, 5 weeks off, whatever it is. Presumably he's coming back healthy right now. The Buccaneers are in playoff position. And if they can just tread water until he gets back, that's going to be a big shot in the arm for that offense. I don't have a problem going for it. It just depends on what I'm giving up to get him.
Yeah.
And it also depends on what my record is now. If I'm 2-5, no, because that doesn't help me now and I need help now. If I'm 5-2 and I could, absorb the hit and I'm not paying too much, hell yeah, have at it.
Good. Himothy. Different week, same question. Love or Hurts? The matchups are both good. There, Cincinnati and Jacksonville are both in the bottom 7 teams in fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. How do you feel about that? Hurts against, I think, on the road against the Bengals.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Hurts is Love is very touchdown dependent in terms of his fantasy output. I heard on the way home on the Jeff Mann show, I forget what it's called, that 40% of his fantasy points have come from touchdowns, which is just crazy.
Yeah, and he's had a bit of an interception problem this year.
He has. And look, he's still a young and relatively inexperienced quarterback in the grand scheme. I'm going to go look, all things being equal, they're both really good matchups. Both quarterbacks are really talented. Give me Hurts and that rushing upside.
Sure. Yep. And I like that as well. D. Hans, welcome to the show, man. Ricky Pearsall or Xavier Worthy in his flex this week?
That's a tough one.
That is a good one.
Pearsall, I understand the temptation because right now there still isn't much clarity as to whether or not Jennings is going to play. We don't know what's going to happen with Debo. I almost said Dubo, and Kittle's nursing an injury as well. Xavier Worthy, they got DeAndre Hopkins and they're going to try and work him in. But number one, what's his workload going to be? And we were talking a little bit earlier. He's done jack shit after he's caught the ball other than just fall down.
Yeah.
Give me the dynamic upside of Worthy in this one.
Okay. Debo was at practice today, just limited. Jennings, however, did not practice today. So keep that in mind. Maybe, both teams are hurting at receiver right now, and you don't really know what's going to happen in KC with the addition of D-Hop this week. So I like Worthy too, but it's tempting to go with Pearsall if Jennings is definitely out.
It is. And the nice thing is that decision doesn't need to be made until about 20 after 4 on Sunday.
Yep. Bisco, what you got? Trade Amari Cooper and Pacheco for Mike Evans and Kyron. He has Kamara, Pollard, Nico, CeeDee, and Amari Cooper as his main wide receiver. 6-1, and he is 1-6.
Oh, so you're trading one injured guy for another, and you're swapping Amari Cooper for Kyron Williams in a vacuum. I like that. We don't necessarily know exactly when Pacheco is going to be back. I did see there was some video of him, running on a treadmill or jogging or whatever that is, which is great to see, but that ain't playing football. So he's likely still a couple weeks out. Let's just assume that Pacheco and Evans come back at the same time. We'll call it week 12. I would rather have Kyron Williams' production between now and then over Amari Cooper's production.
Yeah.
And in a vacuum as well, give me Mike Evans over Isaiah Pacheco, especially considering the team context down there in Tampa. Like, Evans is going to get fed when he comes back.
Sure. And this is a dynasty, if I remember right. I think, yeah.
Maybe.
He's 6-1. Sometimes I'm like, it ain't broke, don't fix it right now. We got Kelsey in the chat. What's up? Welcome back. Glad you could check in with us today.
What a lot of you guys don't know is that, every question you ask and every piece of advice I give, I run it by her first because she's sitting at 6-1. She's the real expert here in the shadows.
All right, one more question. We'll get back to it here from Himothy. Trying to gauge Debo's value in Dynasty full PPR. Should I go Tank and Coker or Addison and Judy?
Which tank are you talking about?
I'm going to guess Dell because they're all receivers up there. But
yeah, I mean, I would, out of that group of 4, Addison to me is the most valuable, and I would rather hang on to him. And so if I'm going to do that, I'll trade Tank and Coker. Yeah, he confirmed it's Tank Dell.
Okay. Kelsey picked up Otten in case Kittle keels over. It's a good move. Should see a more uptick in targets there with them hurting that receiver. What we got next?
We got Joe in here. Should he start Austin Siebert at kicker this week, or should he pick up Ricard? He'd have to drop either Pittman or Tyrone Tracy. I'm not dropping.
I picked up Siebert last week. I think I'm going to be rolling with him for a while.
Yeah, I mean, Reichard, however the hell you pronounce it, Dubo.
That guy's got
on that one.
I think that Reichard's got like a dozen kids or something. I don't know. Just something I saw on the internet today.
That's a random fact.
I don't even know if it's true.
At the same time, I don't necessarily think I want to drop Pittman or Tracy to pick up another kicker.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Kareem Hunt is one of the Chiefs players, is probably the only Chief player that you can start in fantasy and feel good about it, right? He's seen 20-plus touches in his last 2 games, and this week he faces the Raiders, who have allowed 4.9 yards per carry to running backs. You got to start him, right, Matt?
Oh, absolutely. Look, the Raiders are allowing the 8th most points per game to running backs. They're bottom 10 in rush yards, bottom 10 in yards per carry, and they've given up 9 scores. And Kareem Hunt, granted, he's only played 3 games. He's the only running back averaging 20 or more carries per game. Since signing with Kansas City, he's the running back 9 in points per game at 17.2. And look, a lot of people out there thought he was washed, including me. But no, he's 63 carries, 249 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's caught 5 of 6 targets for 36 yards. Not the most efficient runner out there. He's only averaging 4 yards per carry, but he's really brought stability to the running game and has shown so far he can handle volume. I think that volume is going to continue this week. That Raiders team is really starting to just kind of mail it in for the year. Although it does kind of stick in the back of my mind that every so often, it's a division game and the Raiders will step up and they'll play the Chiefs tough. But at the same time, that Raiders defense still has its deficiencies. Andy Reid is smart enough to understand that and target them. I think Kareem Hunt is in line for another 20 carry day this week. I don't necessarily think he's a top 5 option. I think I would very comfortably slot him in somewhere in that, we'll call it 10 to 15 range. So he's a high end running back 2, a low end running back 1, just depending on your league size. I think he finds the end zone. At the end of the day, yeah, the Raiders can kind of step up and be a pain in the ass sometimes. I still think Kansas City gets the win, though, and it's going to be on the back of Kareem Hunt.
Yep, I agree. Ice Cold, what's up? Welcome back to the show. Should I start Cup? I think absolutely you should. He's back. You didn't draft him to have him sit on your bench when he's finally healthy, and you are Matt Stafford has missed him, and he's going to look for him a hell of a lot tonight. The only way to probably beat the Vikings is through the air.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No doubt in my mind. I'm starting Cooper Kupp. If he's on the field, he's in my lineup.
Kelsey, Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert? Burrow's
he's got the
Philly.
Eagles.
They're top 10 in fewest points allowed to quarterbacks.
They are. Herbert's got the Saints. I view that game, though, as more of a Dobbins game than a Herbert game. The Saints are just like a damn sieve against the run here lately. And we know Jim Harbaugh loves to do that. I understand the Eagles are a tougher matchup. I actually think there's going to be a decent amount of points scored in that game. I'm going to go with Burrow.
I agree. Definitely agree. What do we got here? Next up.
Yes. So we had the quarterback changing in Cleveland. And one of the big beneficiaries of that, Kyle and I both believe, is going to be David Njoku. Kyle, why don't you tell us why?
Yeah, I mean, trading away Amari Cooper opened up a huge workload for Njoku. He delivered 23.6 PPR last week. He had the most tight end fantasy points in week 8. He caught 10 passes on 14 damn targets for 76 yards and a tutty. And he's, on the season, his target share has been, in the tank, just 12%, 21st among tight ends. But, he has seen that explode to almost 30% in the last 2 games. And I think that trend should only continue with Deshaun Watson, out for the year now with that Achilles. Without Deshaun Watson last season, Njoku finished the season damn strong. He was tight end 1 in fantasy from week 8 until the end of the season, averaging 15.8 PPR points. I'm not necessarily comparing Jameis Winston and Flacco. I mean, they're guys that have been in the league for a long time, but both of them like to sling it. So I think Njoku should benefit from it this week. And the matchup versus the Ravens this week makes him a virtual start. Their defense has allowed 5 tight ends to beat them for at least 9.7 points, including 3 of them who have scored more than 15, which was Otten last week, and Ferguson and Bowers got him as well for over 15. Baltimore allows the 6th most points to tight ends this season. And one little possible problem, maybe not a problem, could be actually a benefit, is head coach Kevin Stefanski there of the Browns is not calling plays anymore. He turned them over to his OC, Ken Dorsey. And Ken Dorsey, if you remember, was with Buffalo most recently as their OC. Pretty pass-happy coordinator. So I think that even looks even better for Njoku. The Browns got to break out sometime, and I think this is a great week for it. They haven't even scored 20 points. I think they're the only team to not score 20 points this year. Maybe there's a couple more, but I think he's an elite option going forward rest of the season as long as he gets the attention in the Cleveland passing attack.
Oh, for sure. And we saw what Njoku could do last year with competent quarterback play when Joe Flacco was there. I would take Joe Flacco over Jameis Winston, but, both of them are going to push the ball down the field. Njoku is a damn athletic freak. And the way that tight end has been this season, he is a fantastic start this week, and he is a fantastic start for as long as Jameis is in there at QB.
Yeah.
We got a couple questions in here. An interesting one from Bisco. Ideas for last place in his league. Last season, the loser wrote a song praising the winner and had to post it everywhere. I like that one. You could make the loser rock a pretty pink, sparkly princess bumper sticker on their car for a year. You could do like
there you go.
like a hot ones challenge, like chicken wings with increasingly spicy hot sauces. What other ways?
If everybody's able-bodied, I should say, you could have the loser do all the combine drills and video it.
Oh, that's a good one too. I like that one. I guess it just depends on how much you want to, how much of it is punishment and how much is embarrassment.
For sure. Good question.
We got Blue Yays. Should he drop Coleman, Sutton, Myers, or Cup for Kendre Miller? Wouldn't mind the Kamara handcuff with his lingering injuries. I think he meant Christian Kirk for Kendre Miller. Look, things are looking up for Jacoby Myers there in Las Vegas with the departure of Devontae Adams. Cortland Sutton's just kind of meh.
Yeah.
Keon Coleman, I think the arrival of Amari Cooper is going to help out. I have no problem dropping Christian Kirk for Kendre Miller on that one. That way you've got him in case something happens to Kamara. Kamara's getting up there in years. I understand he signed that extension, but still he's taking some wear and tear.
I agree. Kelsey, couldn't do it without my SOS guys. Awesome. We love it.
That's us.
D Hans is back. Mahomes or Caleb Williams this week? I like Caleb against Washington.
Yes. So do I. And Hans, we're going to be getting into that in a little bit more detail here in just a couple minutes. But yeah, short answer, Caleb Williams.
Definitely. And Cam, real quick. Yep. Shoot him in the chat there. We'll get to him as soon as Matt finishes here with his next guy, who actually is Caleb Williams. Don't let the bye week make you forget how well Caleb Williams has been playing. Sure, those were pretty favorable matchups versus the Panthers and the Jags, but he gets another plus matchup versus the Commanders in week 8. What do you think, bud?
Look, I love this matchup. The Commanders are bottom half in quarterback points per game allowed, but they've gotten torched by decent quarterbacks. They allowed almost 1,000 yards combined and 8 touchdowns to Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. So, yes, that is a defense that can be had. From week 3 onward, Caleb is the QB9. He's averaging 21 points per game, and his last 2 games have both been over 23 points. As a matter of fact, he finished as the QB1 in week 6, the last week they played because they were on bye last week. On the year, he's 92 for 144 for 1,050 yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he's chipped in 110 yards on the ground as well. And he's working down the field. He's not just dumping it off. Despite being just 13th in attempts, he's 4th in deep ball attempts. He gets pressured at the 11th highest rate at 36.2%, but on a per game basis, it's the 5th highest at 14 pressures per game. Now understand, there's some inaccuracy issues. He is a rookie quarterback, right? It's going to happen. His 42 poor throws is the 3rd highest behind Aaron Rodgers and fellow rookie Bo Nix, but he does get bailed out by all those quality pass catchers. The Bears have just 4 drops on the season. That's tied for 2nd fewest with 9 other QBs. And you love seeing that. It sucks to make a perfect pass just for the receiver to drop it. I know this game got moved into the 4 o'clock window. We want, everyone wants to see the matchup of the 1st and 2nd pick in the draft. Word around the campfire is Jaden Daniels might play this week. He might not. It's still up in the air. Obviously, I don't like the Commanders' chances and consequently chances for a higher scoring game if Marcus Mariota is in there, despite how good he looked last week. But Caleb Williams, I mentioned before, he's got that good stable of wide receivers. DeAndre Swift is playing some of his best football of his career the past couple weeks. Cole Kmet, a quality tight end. He's got weapons all over the damn place, and he's got a defense that is damn good that has his back as well. I think this sets up really damn nice for Caleb Williams, even if it is on the road.
Yep. Top 10 upside for me this week for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
I think he'll push for top 5 as well.
Yeah. We got a couple questions in here. Kelsey, who was more likely to have a mullet?
Well, that
I
one's
answered
going to
you.
be.
I answered in the chat. It was definitely you.
Well, yeah, no shit.
I tend to remember some type of
I had
cool picture back in the day.
In 5th grade, I had a mullet with a perm in the back, and then the top was kind of feathered. It was badass.
Did you have some soul glow?
No soul glow, no Jerry curl, but I was rocking the mullet, and no, there aren't any pictures.
Cam's back with this question. Not sure what to do with wide receiver. Currently starting Reed, Garrett Wilson, Higgins, and Pickens. I don't hate that.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. He's pretty solid about his other positions like running backs and tight ends, but he is iffy on quarterback. He's planning on starting Purdy this week. Also has Drake May. Might make the switch depending on what May does.
That's something like I understand the temptation there. Given the injuries that they've got in San Francisco, maybe I'm more inclined to play the matchups a little bit more. But still, I'm going to roll with Purdy for at least this week. I don't like Drake May's matchup going up against the Jets. The New England doesn't really have that great of a stable of pass catchers, nowhere near what the Bears have. I understand Purdy's going up against the Cowboys. That's not the Cowboys defense of old. Now, over the next couple weeks, let me take a look at the Niners schedule here real quick. Buccaneers, Seahawks, Packers, Bills. Yeah, Brock Purdy is in my lineup, brother. Don't overthink it.
Yeah. And, you want to start good players and good offenses, and that's probably the best play caller in the NFL and Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see. Kelsey, is Dontavian Wicks worth keeping as a backup? It's tough. I mean, it's like 5 guys now there he's going to throw to, and Wicks is probably 4th or 5th.
Yeah, he is, and really there needs to be an injury to another wide receiver there for him to have relevance.
Yeah.
So I imagine there might be somebody better who's on the waiver wire. I know you just lost Chris Godwin. Yeah. I mean, I'll hold him if there's nobody else better. I just have a hard time believing there isn't.
So, yeah, if somebody like Jalen McMillan's still sitting out there, or maybe Ricky Pearsall, I would consider grabbing one of those two and dropping Wicks.
Sure. Or Jawan Jennings.
Yeah,
maybe
Jennings.
Some people are scared off.
Yeah.
If you can go the week without him, Juju Smith-Schuster is another good option.
And also, I know Matt does it too. A lot of times I'll look ahead for next week as well. Mostly for defenses, I'll do it, mostly for. So you could look ahead and try and grab a defense that has a great matchup next week. Grab them now so nobody else can get them.
Oh, yes.
Cam's got Mixon and Gibbs starting this week. I think that they both have great matchups.
Oh, hell yeah.
Colts and Titans.
And we saw, just if you look over the course of the season, the impact that Joe Mixon has had on that Houston offense there. I mean, last year they were incredibly pass happy, and they even added Stephon Diggs in the off season. But just look at the way they've been. Like, dude, Mixon is eating every single week.
Agreed. Bisco's back. If Kamara has a good week 8, should I try and sell high? I feel like his body is on the brink of falling apart with the heavy usage. New Orleans doesn't think so. They just gave him an extension.
Yeah,
I was shocking. I was totally shocked. I thought he would be gone.
Yeah, and let me scroll back up here and see who else you got there in your backfield. Understand, like, he's the running back too. It's going to take a shit ton to get him. Yeah, he's got Kamara and Pollard as his main running backs.
Yeah,
I'm going to hold on to him. I think.
I got to get some picks, Kelsey. I know. I think I said a couple weeks ago I was going to go through some old yearbooks. I know I got them. I just got to dig them out there, and we'll get some pictures. Let's see. D-Hans. All right, last one for you guys. Keeping stash downs or drop and pick up Troy Franklin the rest of the season?
I understand the appeal of Troy Franklin,
Sure.
but Bo Nix isn't really throwing the ball a whole hell of a lot. At the same time, Josh Downs really, in my mind, is only playable if Joe Flacco is in. Kyle, what do you think?
Same. I mean, AR's just can't throw the ball. I barely even want to start Pittman. I'm not this week in one league, even though he's healthy now, but I agree. Jennings is available. McMillan. Yeah, see, I would grab one of those, Kelsey.
Yep, I go with Myers or Jennings.
Yep. And Jennings, you're going to have to watch out because he's didn't practice again today, but if he is good to go for this weekend, I got to start him. He's not going to get 3 touchdowns again and all that, but I think he'll have a damn solid game, get you, 15, 17 points.
I think so too. Bisco says he's got Tank and Madison on his bench. I don't hate it, but again, like if I'm moving on from Alvin Kamara, I want at minimum a top 10 receiver and probably a running back 2 in return as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing fantastic and you can ask for a lot and you should be able to get a lot for him.
Yeah. Okay, Cam, I got you now. So you can only pick 3 out of those 4. Sorry, we misunderstood earlier. I like Reed. I like Pickens again.
Yep. Comes down to Higgins or Garrett Wilson.
What you think?
Both of them are the number 2 receivers on their team behind Jamar Chase and obviously Devontae Adams. If I'm going to sit one, I'm going to sit Higgins. I think Reed and Pickens have the highest upside of the 2 just based on their situation. Garrett Wilson still got a healthy amount of targets. I think he still had 9 targets last week. Him and Adams and some other dickhead there on the Jets had 9 as well. So he's going to get the love.
Agreed.
Higgins is on the bench.
Welcome to the show, Alexander. Again, everybody, we are here Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, and every Sunday at 12 noon Eastern for all your last-minute questions as well. Alexander wants to know Darnold or Caleb. He's got to know soon, too, because this game starts in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Still think Caleb in that Super Plus matchup. If Jaden Daniels plays there, could be a lot of points scored.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think we could see some points scored tonight as well. The Rams have a full complement of receivers for the first time in what feels like forever. But I think Matthew Stafford, and you kind of touched on this earlier, he ain't going to have a whole hell of a lot of time to throw tonight. I'm going to go Caleb.
I agree. Yep. Glad we could help you out, guys. Thank you guys, too. We appreciate you guys in the chat. Now I'm going to ask you for something. Give us a like. Smash that like button. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss us. Matt threw up the little graphic.
Yes,
Perfect.
I did.
Perfect.
All right.
Time.
Enough groveling. We've talked about the guys we're really high on this week. Now we're going to switch gears and talk about some dudes who maybe you might want to think twice about. And we're going to start at quarterback again. Geno Smith is, by all accounts, having an outstanding year. I believe he's leading the league in passing. But, Kyle, you're looking to pump the brakes on him this week.
I am. And he's been quietly good for fantasy this year. He's QB6 on the season. Last week, he threw for just over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ran the ball a few times for a handful of yards, too. Finished as QB7. Got you 17.8. He scored at least 17.8 points in over 71% of his games so far. Pretty solid, right? Geno this week is what I call a landmine. These are the players you're leaning towards starting this week, but could end up being a landmine that blows up and destroys your starting lineup, possibly costing you a winning week. He's, definitely capable of picking up or putting up big passing yards. Like Matt said, he does lead the league in passing yards, but he doesn't always do it. He's also capable of adding some points during his rushing, but that doesn't always, materialize either. In other words, he's a touchdown dependent quarterback too. Just like, who were we just talking about a bit ago? I can't remember who it was, but anyway. Smith has thrown at least one touchdown pass in each of his past 11 games going back to last season, but it's hard to like his chances of finding the end zone in this matchup. He gets the Bills at home this weekend. Something that was surprising digging in the data. Geno has played better on the road than at home this year, averaging 15.8% more fantasy points per game away from Seattle. And I still think he's a solid floor play this week, but I think the ceiling is going to be pretty limited. 7 different quarterbacks have faced the Bills defense, 8 if you count Skylar Thompson, who relieved Tua back in week 2. 2 of them have thrown multiple touchdowns, just Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers, who had 2 each. No one else. They've held quarterbacks to just over 14.1 fantasy points per game. That's the 8th fewest in the NFL. And they've surrendered 9.9 or fewer fantasy points to quarterbacks in nearly half of their games, including last week. They also have 7 picks this year, which is tied for the 5th most. And more importantly, Smith's likely to be out with DK Metcalf because of that knee injury. I think that's another reason to avoid Geno this week. The matchup, the Seattle's going to need to run this week and throw to the backs a little bit, especially with DK hurting and possibly out. I expect a huge day for Kenneth Walker, but just not Geno.
Yep, you took the words right out of my mouth. This game looks so much like a Ken Walker game to me. Just the Bills are so bad against the run. The loss of DK is going to hurt too. JSN has stepped up at times this year. Tyler Lockett is still a presence there, but there ain't nobody like DK, and that's really going to hurt him. This is a game. Where's that total at? It is 46.5. I actually think this game is going to go under that total.
Okay. We got some couple here. Ice cold. OG Jones, Kyler Murray, or Purdy this week. Jeez.
I'm going with Purdy. There ain't a damn thing about that Dolphins defense that scares me. I think there's going to be some points scored in that game. Tua's going to be back. The Dolphins are going to look like the Dolphins again, hopefully for all of you Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle managers out there. And Kyler Murray has the rushing upside that Brock Purdy simply does not.
Nice. Heck yeah. Smash that subscribe. You tell him. Thanks, Bisco. Appreciate it. Kelsey, she has the Bills defense. Is that safe this week?
It's safe-ish.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, if Kansas City's available, they might be, that's a good matchup against the Raiders.
Yeah. KC's probably taken though.
They probably are. Let's see. Want to see you guys get to 100 subs. Oh yeah, we're on the march to that. We have a baseball channel too that's at, I don't know what, 380 or something like that, I believe, Matt. Something right around there. We actually started fantasy football on that channel last year. And we were just confusing YouTube too much, posting baseball and football videos, so we had to make 2 separate. So we're kind of starting from that. But we're at double nickel right now, I think, 55. So we're making our way.
Yes,
appreciate it, guys. Am I dropping for Chargers?
Yes, I'd rather start the Chargers defense against the Saints than the Bills against the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Chargers have been damn good.
Yeah, they have.
Let's see. Eduardo, welcome to the show. Appreciate you stopping by. Is interested in trading Jameson Williams for Rico Dowdle. I'm gonna go a big fat no. I don't have enough information to totally make it, but just on that, I gotta keep Jamo.
That's my initial thought, but the more I think about it, like outside those first couple games, like Jamo's not really done a whole hell of a lot. Obviously, Rico Dowdle is no prize, but if you're hurting for a running back who has, a defined role on the team and he's going to get the most carries there in that backfield, I can understand doing it. You've also got to remember Jamo's suspended for the next 2 games. And if you're fighting for a playoff spot, these next 2 weeks could be important. Obviously, you don't like the matchup this week for Dowdle going against the 49ers. But if you're looking for a running back, all right, I can dig it.
Yeah. you know, Dallas is coming off that bye. They haven't really looked good at all this year. Their running game for sure. And I think Matt mentioned it last week or the other day, last year after their bye week, they just abandoned the run and they just threw. So you, hopefully that's not a repeat and Dowdle ends up being a complete dud for you. He hasn't really done much this year anyway.
No,
but
you're taking a chance on anticipated volume.
Yeah. And let's see, what do we got here? Cosmic, should I start Jordan Addison or Jalen McMillan, or Lions or Jets?
Oh, this is a no-brainer. I'm starting Addison in the Lions.
Yep. The Lions against the Titans is going to be great there. Levis is out. Mason Rudolph's going to be under center, and he's going to have a damn tough Sunday.
Right, and they no longer have DeAndre Hopkins and his 1 yard after contact or 1 yard after the catch to beat up on. We got Kelsey, too, with some hard-hitting analysis. Look, the bottom line in tonight's game is whoever scores the most points will win. Take it to the bank. You got that shit right, girl. We're cashing that check.
Okay, all right. Diontae Johnson, where to begin, right? He should for certain see some tricky coverage from the Broncos secondary, and he gets Bryce Young at the helm again because Andy Dalton forgot how to drive and sprained his widow thumb. I would not entertain starting him. Matt, he's a full bench this week, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, look, the good with him, he's 7th in the league in targets with 62. He's 8th in target share at 26.5%, and he's 3rd in red zone targets with 10. From week 3 onward, he's been the wide receiver 11 in total points, a wide receiver 15 in points per game. In that time, 46 targets, 25 grabs, 323 yards, and he's found the end zone 3 times. The bad, Andy Dalton, not starting this week. In 2 games with Bryce Young, he's got 12 targets, 5 receptions, 34 yards. He's going against a Broncos defense that allows the fewest points per game to wide receivers and the 7th fewest red zone points per game. And they also allow the 3rd fewest points per game to quarterbacks. And when you already have a shitty quarterback, that's just a recipe for disaster. Pat Surtain, he's trending towards returning, moving through the concussion protocol. And look, at this point, it might even be a moot point because he didn't practice today for the 2nd day in a row. Not trying to cheap out on the analysis here, but, he also missed practice last week and still decided to suit up. Quite frankly, I wouldn't start anybody from the Panthers this week going up against the Broncos. That team is headed nowhere fast. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't win another game all season long. They're going to find out very quickly that Bryce Young is a bust and he's just not going to make it. So they're playing for a draft pick next year, quite frankly. Even somebody like Chuba Hubbard, who's been doing pretty damn well this year to the surprise of pretty much everybody. I'm benching him unless you absolutely have to start him. There is just zero fantasy appeal for any Panthers player this week, period.
No, definitely not. A couple questions in the chat. Oh, that thing moved. Pate's in here. Lad McConkey or Puka this week? Lad's dealing with an injury. He was a DNP today. I'm going to roll with Puka.
Sure. I mean, they've been without him for however the hell long it's been. If he's on the field, he's in my lineup.
Yep. Dubo's spouting some stuff. You were pretty confident last week too, Dubo. I'm glad you're feeling better though. Getting over that little sickness you had there. Big W in La La Land today. I think it's definitely very possible. My money's on the Vikings.
I think so too. I think they'll get the win.
Fantasy announcer Kelsey wants to know, Tony Romo or Tom Brady? It is Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And he's really improved from, if you listen to him, the first week of the season until now, he's gotten a lot better. I'm not a fan of him being an owner of the Raiders just because of all the restrictions that they put on him. You can't attend team meetings. You can't criticize the officials and all this other shit. Just pick one or the other. But I mean, maybe he used the money from his broadcasting deal to pay for his ownership stake in the Raiders.
Right. Start Javonte or Mason for flex this week for another league he's in.
Oh,
those are both good. Well, you can run on Dallas.
Yes, you can.
Micah ain't gonna be back. Yeah, you could run on Dallas for sure. But Matt really loved, or we both did, as a start this week too. I think both are real good.
Yeah, honestly, I don't really think there's a wrong answer here. Squirt gun to my head, I'll probably say Javonte, but it's not by much.
Yeah. And one more here we'll get before we go back to the previously scheduled program. If Etienne is out, start Bigsby over Hubbard. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, definitely.
I mean, you could almost make a case for starting Bigsby over Hubbard, regardless of ETN's status.
Yep, that's weird. So Blue Jays and Bisco just asked the same question. Well, no, Pollard versus Hubbard. Oh, sorry, Pollard and Hubbard.
No,
Both end in ARD, not the same fucking person.
Yeah, Bigsby over Pollard all day long and twice on Sunday. Look, Tennessee ain't gonna be able to do shit against Detroit's defense. Not with Mason Rudolph. I understand Hutch is out, but they're still fantastic against the run. No.
The linebacking core there is what Kelvin Shepard has done with those linebackers. I mean, they drafted well as well, but very solid damn group. Blake 4491, Puka, Lockett, or Jennings in a full PPR. Kind of tough because you got Puka going now, and Jennings, you don't know if he's going to play yet. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going Puka. I mean, there's a reason you drafted him in the first round.
Okay.
If he's out there, run his ass out there.
Cool. All right. Next up.
Oh, yeah. Running backs.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost seemed like it's been the year of the running back, and Rhamondre Stevenson has done okay, and he's done shittily. And Kyle, you're thinking the shittily performances are going to continue.
Yeah, they are. I mean, he's been pretty hit or miss so far, and there's been more misses than hits lately. He's been tough to trust in the last few weeks, scoring fewer than 9 fantasy points in 3 out of his last 4 games. That includes that 4.5 point fucking dud last week where he had just 25 scrimmage yards on 9 touches. That's just ugly. How he failed to capitalize on a matchup against the Jaguars, I'll never fucking know. I don't get it. He's produced a combined 202 scrimmage yards over his last 4 games. And of those 202, 92 of them came in week 5. He also ranks second to last in rush EPA at minus 24.4 among running backs. That's gross. So he's not doing much with the ball when he does get it. Out of the 54 qualified rushers, his success rate, 34.5%, ranks 40th. And out of the 42 running backs with 50 plus rush attempts, his PFF grades bottom 10, receiving grades bottom 10. He's 19th in rushing yards and 22nd in rush yards per attempt. And he's also fumbled 4 times. He lost 2 of them. The 4 fumbles is the most among all running backs. If he couldn't handle the Jaguars, I don't know how he's going to fare against the Jets defense that allows the 10th fewest fantasy points to running back. At best, he's a risky flex play.
Very, very risky.
Risky.
I think that whole Patriots offense is going to struggle this week, quite frankly. Look, Drake May has shown promise, and he's been fine. I just look, the Jets are going to be able to stack the box because they don't have anyone at wide receiver who can beat their secondary, period. I think the only person I would consider starting is Hunter Henry.
Same. Yep. For sure. Do we got any questions in here? Don't see any. Cool. CeeDee Lamb averages just 6.4 yards per a target. It's horrible. And he has yet to eclipse the century mark in receiving yards. Should you sit him? Can you sit him? Matt's going to hold your hand and tell you it's okay.
Yes. Pat you on the head, tussle your hair. For somebody that many, myself included, were drafting first overall, being the wide receiver 16 halfway through the fantasy regular season is pretty damn disappointing. I mean, we're talking about a dude that has as many top 10 weekly finishes as Trey Tucker, Alec Pierce, and Pop Douglas. He has 14 fewer PPR points than Nico Collins, who hasn't played since the first quarter of week 5. That's how bad it is for him. You mentioned it. He has yet to record a 100-yard game. on the year. He's got 55 targets, hauled in 32 of them for 467 and found the end zone twice. But there's still some good there. He's 5th in yards after the catch. He's 4th in yards after contact. He's 9th in targets and 15th in target share. Last year, he was 1st in targets and 4th in target share. Yeah. And funnily enough, he had almost the same production last season through his first 6 games, but then just went tits the rest of the season. But I don't see that happening this year. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. You know, Dallas changed their entire philosophy after the bye last season, and it carried into this year. So it's not like they can do it again and just decide, you know, fuck it. You only live once. We're not going to run the ball anymore. You know, the Niners are top 10 in fewest points allowed to wide receiver. Dallas's O-line is struggling. Dak is following right with them on that struggle short bus. And you looking at this, we'll call it asymmetrically. All the injuries to the 49ers offense could actually be a negative for Dallas in the pass game this week. It could result in a more run-heavy game from San Francisco's end and a slower pace. I'm not saying to bench him per se, but we've seen teams heavily focus attention on Lamb this season, and the remainder of the offense pretty much folds. To me, he's a low to mid-end wide receiver too this week. If he finds the end zone, awesome. Maybe he ends up as a high-end wide receiver too, but he's nothing near what you were expecting when you drafted him. I understand we're halfway through the season. I'm just kind of using that as a comparison point. You know, you were expecting a top 3 wide receiver, and you're not getting it this season or this week.
Yeah. Now, I think he is a sharp buy low candidate for sure. Right now, you could probably get him for a hell of a lot less than what he should go for. And, you know, maybe Dallas picks it up and he can end up being a top wide receiver again the rest of the way.
We'll see. I mean, at this point, I'm not hopeful. Now, maybe things change when Brandon Cooks comes back off of IR and he adds that, you know, more of a speed aspect to the offense. But yeah, things have not been good.
Yeah. Heck yeah, no questions. Keep rolling.
Sweet. So we are on to our last sit of the week. And if there has been a bigger disappointment in fantasy football this year, injuries aside, I don't know who it is. And I have learned, even though I didn't draft this dude, I am never paying up for tight end again. Kyle, Sam LaPorta. Jeez. From our Lions. Holy shit.
What to do with Sam LaPorta? He's too good to drop. He's too bad to trade. All you can do is sit him on your fantasy bench and hope you can get some type of ROI from him eventually. He's tough to sit at a thin position. I get it, but he has not lived up to the expectations this year. He's tight end 21 in PPR formats, averaging just 7.1 points per game. He's cracked double-digit fantasy points just once back in week 6, and he had just 1 target in that game because he scored on that long touchdown pass, 50-yarder or something. So he's also seen less than a 10% target share in 4 of 6 games. And games with 2 or fewer catches last year, 1. This year, 4. What the fuck? Among the 36 tight ends with 15-plus targets, he's 16th in PFF receiving grade. He's tied for last with just 15 total targets, tied for 18th in receiving yards. He is second in yak per reception at 9.6. That's skewed big time from that 50-yarder because 49 yards of that was yak. If you're looking for, you know, a bounce back to fantasy relevance, keep waiting. LaPorta has the most difficult tight end draw in week 8, I think. Matchup versus the tight ends. They haven't allowed a tight end to beat them for more than 8.2 points. They've yet to allow a tight end to score a damn touchdown, and they've yielded the 5th fewest receiving yards to tight ends, just 117. That's crazy. So as good as the Lions offense has been, you know, they've succeeded without LaPorta. So if you do start him this week, I would not expect you to win.
No, absolutely not. Like, just it's been a shit show. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. Like, just we knew coming into the year, all right, he was pretty touchdown dependent, right? So you're expecting, all right, he's not gonna, you know, get 10 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns. Maybe he regresses to 5, but you're still expecting 7, 8, close to 900 yards, and just none of it has been there.
Nope.
And it's a damn shame. We got Marlon here. Emergency. Should he start Puka over Devonta Smith or Brian Thomas Jr.?
Devonta, no. BTJ and Puka are kind of equal for me, but I got to go Puka.
Yep. Same here.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Sam La Toilet.
No shit. Kelsey hitting hard with the it's been a shit show. She is good for those Twitter handles, folks.
Yep.
Dubo says no. Go with BT Jr.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well,
listen
see
to
how
this
it
guy.
goes. Guess we'll regroup on Sunday and Tuesday and figure out who was right. So.
Yeah, Marlon says, but isn't he going to have a low snap count due to injury? Look, I look at it like this. If he wasn't ready to come back, he wouldn't be playing.
Yeah, like he's full go. Yeah, full go. I mean, if he's not out there 95 to 97% of plays, I'd be shocked.
Yep, same here. The Rams they're 2-4 right now, so they're not necessarily out of it, but a couple more losses than they will be. And Dubo makes a good point. BT has been on a heater.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he has. That's why at first I was like, they're kind of equal for me, but what you spent on Puka, I just feel you got to start him. I know it doesn't really matter anymore, but I think you got to start him.
Yep. Dubo's bias is showing. Those purple dudes hit pretty hard on D.
Yeah. How'd it go last week? Not too good.
Right. They lost so bad, Dubo got sick.
I have not had that. I've actually looked into that because a lot of times coffee will bother my tummy, and I know matcha's a lot better for it.
Yeah, matcha's pretty good. I tried it, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago.
Cool.
It was, I mean, I looked at it and it kind of looked like a blended frog. So I was a little apprehensive, but I took the dive and that shit wasn't bad.
Right. Real fast. We'll cover this real fast because we missed it Tuesday. The standings. Dubo. Green Giant 6-1, leading the listener league. Where I'm at, 4th. Matt's 5th, right behind me. We're both still in it.
I'm in 6th.
I made a trade this week because I lost Chris Godwin. I traded for who did I trade for? Diggs. Stephon Diggs from Idaho Moose Knuckles. I was like, well, he's pretty much out of it. Our good friend Adam lives out there in where's he at now? Idaho?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You are Idaho.
All right. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. We're gonna get the hell out of here. Ray's Piss Jugs is a reference from the show Trailer Park Boys.
Yes. I've been telling you for like 3 months to check that show out.
Yep.
Start with season 2.
Yeah, season 1's not so great. Start with season 2. And you can stop after 7, I think. The rest of it's not as good. Still some great moments, but not as good.
Yes. It's hilarious. Funniest show I've ever seen.
We're going to get out of here. Have a great night. Enjoy Thursday night football. Good luck in your matchups if you got some guys going today. Give us a like and subscribe. And we will be back Sunday, 12 noon Eastern for Tinker Time, taking all your last-minute lineup questions. Stay stoned, everyone. Have a